Am I the a-hole for canceling my credit card after my boyfriend refused to return it to me? I'll preface by saying that me, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 30, have been together for 3 years and a half. I've been jumping from one job to another, while he has been unemployed due to health issues that affected his performance at work. Usually, I'm the one handling rent, bills, groceries, etc. I use my credit card to make any purchase I want. Last week, my boyfriend out of nowhere asked for my credit card. I asked why, since I'm the one who handles payments and supermarket trips. He told me he wanted to buy some food and I agreed to let him take it but told him to return it later. He got back later and when I asked about my credit card, he was like, "What credit card?" I thought he was joking, so I told him to just give it back. He said to just keep it with him. I asked why and he said so he could start handling paying for stuff on my behalf. I felt uncomfortable and said I'd rather not burden him with his stuff and asked him to hand over the credit card. He refused and said that he'll just keep it, since it doesn't have that much money anyway. I was livid. I tried to argue but he told me to just trust him and let him keep it and swore he won't spend a penny from it. Next morning, I went and canceled it and then registered a new one. He must have had tried to use it because he called and was confused asking why the credit card was not valid anymore. I told him it's because I canceled it and registered a new one. He lost it and started scolding me, saying he couldn't believe I had this level of pettiness, and kept on about how I don't trust him with my finances, and how financially abusive I have become lately. I hung up on him. The argument continued at home and he called me paranoid and unreasonable and all that. Then he started cold shouldering me and sulking about it for days. I do feel like I hurt his feelings and showed an amount of distrust towards him. Am I the a-hole for canceling the credit card? Adding in some info. Like I said, he has a physical disability that limits his opportunities for work. He receives no disability benefits because he doesn't want to. He refuses to acknowledge he has a disability and pretends that it doesn't exist at all. When I tell him to look for a job, he'd blame people for purposely refusing to employ him and say that they look down on him like he's lacking or beneath them. He comes from a humble background, no longer has contact with family due to abandonment issues but has some friends to lean on. Since someone asked, the answer is I do almost 80% of the chores while he does the other 20%. Reasons for that is his disability. Finally, I pay for rent, bills, groceries, his meds and transportation as well, so I needed a card to be constantly with me. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He swore he won't spend a penny from it, followed by the next day must have had tried to use it. Your instincts were excellent, as was your decisive and immediate action. You know what he wanted was wrong. Trust yourself. This right here. Then has the nerve to say she's mistreating him financially. He's using her and leeching. Not the a-hole. Maybe time to cancel your boyfriend as well. I wish this forum wasn't so divorce happy because it really takes away from situation like this where the only reasonable answer is to actually break up. This would be such a deal breaker for me. To be fair, the can't work because disability but still refuses to acknowledge disability and gets benefits for it thing would have been a deal breaker for me in the first place. But taking your credit card and refusing to give it back when asked is so disrespectful I could never trust him again. If your marriage is in such a state that you have to turn here, it's almost always over anyway. Seriously, sometimes I may have issues with my partner but not to the level where I need a sanity check from strangers. The last time that happened with me it was like, so my boyfriend blocked me in. Was it okay for me to yell at him to leave me alone? I don't want to be abusive. I was thankful that people in my life went, WTF, I didn't realize it was this bad. Sometimes people's sense of normal is broken down so bad. Also beware, since he isn't working, that means he can get to the mail first and take the replacement card when it arrives. This, and block your credit files. He might be shadier than you think. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to defend my wife to my mom and telling my wife to get over it? We currently live with my mom and will be out as soon as possible. We had a baby and a couple setbacks, but this isn't working for anyone. In the past, I've always stood up for my wife when my mom was rude. Recently, my wife had a friend over and my mom was going on a date. He was waiting for her in the living room and I guess overheard my wife and her friend talking about how hot he was and really going on and on about it. Even as far as they want to go and smell his neck, and how was my mom even going to talk to him because they would just blank out and stare. He mentioned it to my mom while they were out, and my mom was angry the next morning. She yelled at my wife, called her creepy and jealous. My wife asked me if I was really going to let her yell. I said it is humiliating that their conflict stems from her talking about another guy like that, so why would I defend her? My mom did have an attitude, so I feel kind of bad. My wife then said my mom shouldn't have let him sleep over when we have a baby, and my mom doesn't really know him. And my mom lost it and was screaming, "Do you want to be on the streets? One more word and you are homeless." My wife turned to me crying and asked if I really wasn't going to do anything. I said I was embarrassed by what she said, and she's acting entitled when it is my mom's house. She called me a coward and ran off. She is now refusing to speak to me and telling people how I'm a mama's boy, which I think is unfair as we don't even get along anymore. But I don't see why I would stand up for her when she humiliated me with what she was saying. Not a-hole. Your wife is wrong here in every way. Your mother isn't obligated to change her social life just because you are all there. She's right. You are lucky she lets you live there. Adding 2 adults and a baby to her home can't be easy on her. Let's all call out that this all started with a wife and friend being creeps. There really isn't much to defend here. If someone is being a creep and gets called out for it, I'm not going to back them up. I'm going to call out the creepy behavior. The nature of the relationship doesn't change this. Yeah, society even gives women a pass for being creepy about attractive men, whereas it's more common to call out men who are being creepy about attractive women. It's definitely true that a man being creepy to a woman is more likely to cause bodily harm than a woman to a man, but both definitely need to be called out when they happen. I'm a woman, and imagining anyone other than an established partner, regardless of gender, talking about how hot I am and wanting to smell me? Big alarm bells. I'm surprised Opie's wife, as a woman who has presumably been creeped on by men in the past, didn't have more self-awareness. If my partner said this about someone else, my concern would be with them objectifying someone and being creepy, not about how embarrassed I am that they found someone other than me attractive. I wouldn't be backing up my partner either. So I don't agree with Opie's reasoning for not supporting their wife, but I agree with the end result. This is a major mess around and find out moment for Opie's wife. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to split rent with my boyfriend? I, female 23, have been dating my boyfriend Jake, male 23, since our freshman year of college. In our last year of undergrad, we decided to rent an apartment together. We split everything 50-50, including utilities, groceries, and rent. We continued living together in the same town as our college after graduation, but recently we both got jobs in Chicago and we are currently living downtown. My dad works in real estate, and he has multiple investment properties. My dad generously allowed me to live in one of his properties rent-free, but he said that my boyfriend would have to pay him $400 a month for rent. My dad is very protective, but he has been nothing but kind to my boyfriend. My dad's reasoning for making my boyfriend pay rent is that he wants to be sure that my boyfriend is with me for me, and not because he will have a free place to live. Keep in mind, if my dad was renting this apartment out to tenants, he would charge $2,100 a month for rent. Very ritzy building in the middle of downtown Chicago. My boyfriend is mad at me because he asked me for my half of the $400 for rent, and I explained to him that I will not be paying rent. My dad is only charging him. He says that we have been splitting rent for the past 2 years, so why would we stop now? Our rent in our college town was $1,200, so we were both paying $600 a month. Our apartment in Chicago is significantly nicer, and he is paying $200 less a month than what he was in college. Is the idea that my dad doesn't charge me for rent but charges my boyfriend so crazy? Should I suck it up and pay half because I can afford it? Edit. Jake and I still split utilities and groceries 50-50. And when we go out on date nights, we switch off who pays for it. If it pays 1 week, I'll pay the next. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Rent isn't $400. It's $2,100. Point out that if he wants to split rent, then do so by having your dad charge the full amount, which means his portion is $1,050. Pay your dad that, and dad can give it back to you or put it in an escrow to save for a future house. The $400 is a major discount for him, and dad lets you have it for free. This is exactly what I was thinking. The boyfriend thinks he is entitled to Opie's perks. He is the boyfriend, not even husband. He is not immediate family, and the dad is giving him a very good deal already. Don't expect wifey-level service at girlfriend prices. Not a hole. A nice ritzy building, check. Located in downtown, check. Only $400 a month, double check. Near your jobs? Check. Getting the family discount from girlfriend's dad? Check. What more does your boyfriend want? Clearly he's not seeing the bigger picture. He's getting a lot of perks because of you and he only has to pay a fraction of the rent. Doesn't he realize that millions don't have that luxury in these critical times of the economy? Plus, he's failing miserably with your dad's test. Your dad's suspicions are kinda right. Maybe dad is spot on with his reasoning. Not the OP, but depending on how hard your boyfriend pushes, this should be a red flag. I think your dad just showed a lot of who Jake is. Explain that rent is $2,100 a month and he is expected to pay $400. You are paying $1,700, but you are receiving support from your family to do so. If he would like to split rent, he is welcome to pay $1,050. Your boyfriend is either 1, greedy and disingenuous, or 2, stupid. Either way is not attractive. I vote for this too. Giving him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he's really not aware how much rent costs in this area. But if he doubles down on splitting $400 rent, then I think he definitely failed Papa's test like a fool. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my child's mother I'm not interested in her problems? Our child is 3 and we have altering weeks. My mother and sisters help me with childcare when I'm working, and I know I'm very lucky for this. My ex has recently started complaining that she's having trouble with childcare. The cost has become unreasonable and our daughter is at an age now where she screams and cries when left with someone she doesn't know. And she can scream. My girl has a bright future as a tuba player because those lungs are powerful. I told my ex that my mom could watch our daughter for her, but she said she didn't want my family watching her daughter on her time. I figured that was the end of the conversation, but she brought it up again at the next swap. I asked her why she was telling me this, and she got offended. She said I should care about her struggle since it involves our daughter. I said it's not possible to sympathize with problems that have easy solutions. She wants to waste her money on babysitters our daughter hates. That's her choice. If it causes problems for her, those are her problems. If she doesn't want my help, which she doesn't, then there's no reason for us to discuss her problems, as nothing can come out of it. She said I was being an a-hole and she just wanted a sympathetic ear, that she needs to talk about her problems sometimes. I said that's what a therapist is for, or her friends or something. I'm not going to pretend to be interested in her problems. I don't like problems. I like solutions. She said that that's why our relationship ended, and I agreed that it was, and asked her why she expected me to do something for her now that we're broken up. Listen to problems without offering solutions, when I wouldn't even do that when we're together. She knows I'm only interested in solutions, not problems. Why was she expecting something else? My sister said it's important to have good communication with my child's mother and I should pretend to care even though I don't, just to keep that communication line open. She said it's only once a week, and saying, "I'm sorry, that sucks," costs me nothing, and takes less time than saying, "Your problems aren't real problems and I don't care," and start a fight. She might have a point. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I can't believe your ex is turning down free childcare. Unless your family is rude or mistreat her in some way. Some parents use an app for communication. Could be something to look into. My mom is always nice to her, and my ex really liked my mom before we broke up. For her, it's the principle of the thing. Like, my family should only see our daughter on my time. Which, fine, but then figure out your own childcare, right? Is it possible that instead of wanting a sympathetic ear to listen, she actually wanted money out of the situation? Like she thought she can get you to pay for her childcare if she complains enough. Not the a-hole. She needs to move on and stop depending on you for emotional support. Divorce means the end of the relationship between you and her, as anything more than parents. We weren't married, but I completely agree with you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not paying my niece's college tuition? 40-year-old male here. My niece, Bryn, recently started attending her second-choice college. And apparently, I'm a selfish a-hole for making it impossible for her to go to her dream school. Earlier this year, when Bryn got accepted to her dream school, the family had a little get-together to celebrate. While there, my sister, Bryn's mom, pulled me aside and asked if I would pay Bryn's tuition. The school is out of state, so it was going to be too expensive for my sister and brother-in-law, a little upwards of $50,000 per year. I said no. I'll admit that I felt terrible since we were at a gathering to celebrate her acceptance, and now she couldn't attend. But I was also blindsided because there had never been any mention before about me financing Bryn's college. My parents, sister, brother-in-law, and Bryn nagged me for months trying to change my mind, saying that Bryn is my only niece, and I should reward her for working so hard. She really is a great student, and I'm proud of her graduating on the honor roll. But I just don't think that means I need to spend $50,000 per year. I consider myself to be a pretty frugal guy, relative to what I make at least, and $50,000 is about what I spend annually for all my living expenses combined. I thought that by the time Bryn started at her current university, she would get over it and see that this school is great too. But I'm still getting the cold shoulder and snide remarks every time I go to my sister's or parents' house. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Everyone else involved is though. What kind of backward nonsense is that? You don't understand though. The family at the moment isn't allowed to say no. Wait a second. Why would there be any expectation for you to fund her education? It seems a little bizarre that out of nowhere you'd be asked to stump up $50,000 a year. I mean, if that's what happens, then definitely not the a-hole and your family's crazy. But I don't know. Something doesn't add up. Based on my experience of AITA questions, I assume that OP has no children, and therefore siblings that do see him as an ATM. OP is definitely not the a-hole here. You hit the nail on the head. Edit. Some people are asking why my sister thinks I would be able to pay for this. I make about $700,000 annually and have no children or wife. I've helped my family out of some rough spots before. $30,000 in medical debt, etc. I feel guilty because I probably got them accustomed to sudden favors when they needed it. As someone else stated, I became an ATM. But I think $50,000 every single year is different. Final edit. I will consider paying partial tuition. Earlier, I was thinking about paying for one of the 4 years. We'll see.